All right, if you're an iOS developer, you know that building inclusive apps isn't just nice to have, it's a must. But let's be honest, when we talk accessibility, there are a couple of things that always seem to trip people up. Today, we're going to finally clear the air on accessibility labels versus accessibility hints. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Accessibility label versus accessibility hint. Do you really know the difference? I mean, really? Because getting this right, well, that's the secret sauce for a truly great experience for anyone using tech like VoiceOver. Okay, first up, the accessibility label. Think of this as the bedrock, you know? It's the absolute starting point for any element on the screen. It is the very first thing a user is going to hear. So what's its job? It's super simple, but absolutely critical. It tells the user what the UI element is. That's it. For right now, forget what it does. The label is all about what it is. It's the element's name, its identity. And yep, it's always the first thing VoiceOver says out loud. And here's the easiest way to get this right, like every single time. If you're staring at your code and you're not sure what to write for a label, just ask yourself one simple question. What is this? Seriously, whatever your answer is, that's your accessibility label. Done. Let's make this real. Picture a button with just a plus icon on it. You and I, we see that and we instantly know what it does. But for VoiceOver, it's just an image, a mystery. So we give it a name. We set that label to add contact. Boom. Simple, clear, does the job perfectly. And that's exactly what the user hears. VoiceOver will read our label, add contact, and then it'll tack on the element's type, button. So now the user knows exactly what they focused on. Okay, so that's the what it is. Now let's talk about what happens next. Right, so if the label tells us what something is, what's the deal with the hint? Well, the hint is all about answering that next obvious question in the user's mind. Okay, so what happens if I actually tap this thing? The accessibility hint explains the result, the outcome of an action. It's that what's next piece of the puzzle. And VoiceOver reads this after the label. But, and this is important, only if you've actually written one. And that is the fundamental difference. The label asks, what is this? The hint asks, what happens if I use this? If you can just lock that mental model in, label for identity, hint for outcome, you've pretty much mastered this whole thing. So let's go back to our little add contact button. We already gave it an identity with a label. Now we can add a hint to clear up the outcome. So here, we'll set the hint to something like, adds a new contact to your list. It's short, it's all about the action. Okay, let's put it all together now. The user navigates to the button. First, they hear the label and type add contact button. Then there's a little pause and VoiceOver reads the hint, adds a new contact to your list. See? It's a complete little story in two parts. It gives you the identity and the outcome. All right, we've looked at them one by one. Now for the main event. Let's put them side by side and really nail down the differences. I promise, this is where it's all going to click. This table just lays it all out perfectly. Let's walk through it. First up, purpose. The label is all about identity. The hint is about the result. Simple. Next, the question it answers. We've been over this, but it's key. For the label, it's what is this? For the hint, it's what will it do? Okay, what about required? A label? Yeah, that's pretty much essential for anything a user can interact with. But a hint? That's optional. You only really need it when the outcome isn't super obvious. And finally, length. Keep your labels short and sweet, like a name. The hint can be a bit longer, like a quick explanation, but you still want to keep it concise. Okay, so knowing the difference is one thing, but actually using them correctly in your code? That's the next level. Let's talk about some pro tips and best practices so you can avoid the common mistakes everyone makes. All right, let's really drill down on these best practices. First, and this is non-negotiable, always set a clear label. Just do it. Second, use a hint only when the action isn't obvious. A button that says save probably doesn't need a hint that says saves the document, right? People get it. Third, and this is a huge one, do not repeat the label in the hint. It's so annoying for the user to hear the same thing twice. It's just noise. And last but not least, avoid putting instructions like double tap in there. VoiceOver already tells users how to interact with things. Adding your own instructions just makes everything cluttered and confusing. So we've gone through the definitions, we've looked at code, we've talked best practices. But if you walk away with just one thing from all of this, please make it this next point. This is it. Ready? Label equals identity. Hint equals outcome. That's the whole thing in 4 words. If you can burn that into your brain, I promise you, The accessibility of every single app you work on will get so much better. And hey, here's a little career tip for you. This stuff isn't just for making great apps. This exact question, the difference between a label and a hint, is one of the most common things you'll get asked in an iOS accessibility interview, for real. So knowing this doesn't just make you a better dev, it makes you a much more hireable one. So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. Every single button, every switch, every element in your app, it tells a little piece of a story. And with labels and hints, you're the one telling that story. So the question is, how can you go back to your projects, like today, and make that story just a little bit clearer, a little more helpful, and a lot more accessible for every single person who uses it?